Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Jamie Photography. So I was in York last week. I think you saw my previous video where we saw York Minster and had a good time there. But I thought I really did have to share another shot from the Shambles. A wonderful street, 1380, I think it was built somewhere around there, so 14th century. It's a great place to visit, particularly at Christmas time, and there's some lovely Christmas decorations up. If you want to see the Shambles as quiet as this, you do need to get up early in the morning so that you can have the place to yourself. I think this was around about 5 o'clock in the morning, so about 2 hours before sunrise. So what we're going to do with this shot is really not too much in the way of changes. We're going to do a little bit of generative fill, and I'll show you one of the original images here. We've got two images which you will be able to download and follow along with if you want to. The link's down below, and we're going to do an HDR, bring them together, turn them into the main image. And why I just want to show you this shot. This is the brighter of the two HDR images, and you'll see here we've got a lens flare which has come from water on the lens. So we're going to show you how to remove something like that so that we get a really good image, balance the colors, get the lighting right, emphasize the inside of this window. I think it looks lovely. And also we're going to change this sign. If you see here, this needs to be changed. If you enjoyed the video, click like. If you got comments or questions or tips, feel free to put them down below. I always like to see your comments and points. I try my best to answer all of them. If you haven't already subscribed, it'd be great for you to join me here on YouTube. If you've got 5 minutes, pop over and have a look at my website, jrmafflin.uk. And I've also got some affiliate links down below. There's some good discounts available at the moment on DxO and Luminar. Okay, let's get started. So here are the two raw images. We've got an underexposed image, which is really trying to expose for the highlights. And we've got a sort of normal level of exposure, which is really picking up the whole area. But of course, the highlights are going to be a little bit blown out. So we're going to go into develop module. So this is the brighter image. You can see here in the center, we've got, looks like a water droplet on the lens. And I think there's a refraction up there as well, and one up here at the top. So this was 1.3 seconds at f8. ISO 500. You might say, well, why did you go for ISO 500? I've been playing with some ideas with the D+2 setting in the Canon menu, which allows us to get more information from the highlights. I talked about it in my last video as well. To be honest, I'm not convinced. There definitely is a little bit more highlight resolving, but you're losing quite a bit of shadows in doing so. So I think going forward, I'm just going to stick with my ISO 100 and no D+ or D+2 mode. Just going to work with the shadows that we've got. But we were just playing with this, so we've got a little bit of noise to play with. And if I zoom in a little bit here and perhaps just boost the exposure, you can see there's some noise in the sky. So we'll deal with that in a little while. So what I'm going to do is going to take these two images and we're going to do an HDR with them. We can have a look at it before we change them by opening up the shadows here and bringing down the highlights. You can see that lamp is completely blown out. And don't worry about these raindrops. We can deal with that. And we've also got this one here, which is, I've just tweaked that down a little bit. You can see that we are working quite well. That's sort of where we want to be. We can always remove the brightest part there and put our own one in later on, which I'll show you in Photoshop, back to remove this water drop as well. So let's take these two images here and then right click on either one and go to photo merge. We can use HDR. Now, you have seen in some of my earlier videos that I've tried some different systems, including the 32-bit HDR Pro mode in Photoshop, which works really well. So you might say, well, why aren't you using that? To be honest, this exposure is pretty good. Quite happy with it, so I don't really need to push that 32-bit. 16 bits is more than enough. So I'm going to use Lightroom to do it. So I'm going to click on HDR. It's going to take those two images. There we go. Inside the HDR module here, and then you've got auto align checked. We need that to make sure, even if you're on a tripod, it's always a good idea to align, because there can always be some micro movement. Auto settings doesn't really matter whether you select it or not. It's just showing you what we can use, because after we've done the HDR, we can make our own adjustments anyway, but I'll leave it on so we can see there. And then also you've got the deghoster mounts, and this deals with any movement that you might have in the scene. So if there's a tree moving in the wind or whatever, you can select different levels of deghosting. There is none here, so we're okay with this. It's a beautiful scene. It rained quite a lot whilst I was there. I spent most of the early hours of the morning under an umbrella, but as soon as it stopped raining, I got the shot. And it's important that you keep your lenses dry. Keep your lens cap on if you're just walking about, particularly if it's raining. And then before you shoot the shot, give it a quick clean, which I did. So this is about probably 20-30 seconds afterwards, managed to pick up another drop, which is a shame, but it's okay, we can deal with it. And at the bottom here you'll see create stack, and that just puts the two original images behind the new HDR image in the film strip. So let's click merge and allow that to do its work. You can see up there it's processing that, and if I bring the film strip up, you'll see the two images we've got, and once it's processed it, there's the new one. It's put the other two behind it. If you want to re-release them, you can always right click on there, go to stacking, and just click on unstack, and it will put them back where they are. Okay, so we've got really quite a nice image here. Let's just check for noise just to see how much noise we've got. Just boost that. There's a little bit of noise there, so let's try to deal with that. What I'm going to do is just make this a little bit brighter. There we go. And we're going to go down, because it's still a .dng, we can still use the denoise function. So I'm going to click on denoise and let it run the algorithm and apply it to the scene, and hopefully that will look a lot better afterwards. Now you can adjust the slider depending on how much noise you've got. 50 tends to work quite well, so let's go back up to where we looked. Let's just make that sky a little bit brighter, and you can see that that's much better. If you feel that you need a little bit more, you can go back down to denoise, and you can maybe take it up a little bit more, and you can see that will just smooth it out even more. I find it starts to look a little bit unnatural if you remove all the grain, so I think I'm going to stick with 50 here. And bear in mind we're zoomed into 200% here, and the exposure's pushed quite high, so I'm just going to put that back to 0 there. No, maybe a little bit brighter. One stop. There we go. So that's the scene we've got. Looks really good. I just want to make sure that lamp is where we want it to be, so I can bring down those highlights a little bit more. If you go too far, you'll notice it doesn't look natural. So you need to just pick it up so that it's about there. It looks reasonably natural, and the overall scene looks pretty good. Just a little bit brighter, I think. We'll just check our blacks and our whites. Hold down the Alt or Option key, move the slider. You can see some of the whites there from the bright lights, so just bring that back so they're not quite there. That'll do. And the same with the blacks. We want a little bit of black in there, but not too much. So we're just getting a little bit of black around there. So this is looking really quite nice. Now there is a little bit of tidying up to do. I need to get rid of this raindrop on the screen and also the flare that we've got up there. So let's jump over into Photoshop, and what we'll do is we'll just do a little bit of tidying up. So I'm right click on the image, go to editing, go to Photoshop 2026, and then we'll jump over into Photoshop. I'll just go down there and select it. There we go. So let's deal with this first. So the best thing to try to start with is the remove tool. So you can click J on your keyboard, or just go over and pick up this little band-aid, go to remove tool, and we'll select that, and then we'll make the brush roughly the size of the actual raindrop itself. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. I think that's about right. So I'm going to click on that, and then we're just going to hit the check mark. Now I've got remove after each stroke turned off at the moment, so that doesn't work very well. You can see that doesn't look very good at all. So let's just zoom back. We'll go with a Control Z or Control Z to undo that, and we'll make it bigger. And we'll go for a bigger one, and hopefully the remove tool will realize that we want the edge of those Christmas decorations in the shot. So I hit check there, and that's done much better that time. We've lost a couple of the beams away from the light, but that's okay. Now let's move up into the top right corner here. You can see that there is one up here, so I'm just going to go in there, try to avoid the edge of the window. There we go. Click on that, hit check mark. It will probably remove the electrical connector. It did through there, so that's fine. Okay, so let's zoom back out. I thought I saw another one up in this corner here. I did. So let's just remove that one as well. Click on that and click remove. Now, if you struggle with the remove tool to remove it, you can use generative fill to remove things. But in this case, I think we are okay. I'm just going to go down to the magnifying glass, hit full screen, and what we're going to do. Now, I'm going to probably crop this edge here in a little bit closer because this is not usable information over here, so I don't need to remove the wire there. I might remove that box. So just go to remove tool, and we might just remove that box there. Yeah. And then I see there's a cable going up the wall there, so we'll just click once, hold down the shift key, click again to get a straight line, hit the check mark. And that's one of the reasons why the remove after each stroke is turned off, is that you are able to do straight lines. So let's just zoom in here. Now, it's a shame these wires are so bright, but they are holding the Christmas decorations, so I'm not going to remove them, but I'm just going to remove them off the wall here. So we're just going to come across there and then up under there. There we go. Hit the check mark. So it's just a little bit tidier. Now, anything else that we need to look at, we just go around. I'm always looking for alarm boxes and things. They always never look too good. There's one down there. Look, you can see it there. And I'm just going to remove that electrical connector from that joint there. And we can get rid of those. Now, there was a label on the ground here, a ticket or something, and a leaf. So I'm just going to remove those. That's it. So that looks okay. So nothing else really there that needs attention. Now this sign, all the signs here look okay. Solicitors is a little bit boring, but the others look quite nice. These are nice here. The very nice, but this one doesn't. So I think what we're going to do is we're probably going to change the sign. Okay, so we're going to use generative fill for that. But just before I do, I'm just going to go along the edge there and just remove that orange strip. So just using the remove tool again, we will remove. There we go. Remove the strip, but we're going to change the sign. So how do we do that? Right, well, let's go to the lasso tool. Let's right click on the lasso tool and pick up the polygonal lasso tool. And then what I'm going to do is let's zoom in on this sign. And I'm just going to come in by the corner here, click, and then go across, click, and just effectively square out the actual sign itself with a selection. So there we go. That's selected. So we can go to generative fill. So I'm going to click on generative fill. So what we're going to type in here is replace the sign with a picture, yeah, of a witch in the style of, what should we say, a medieval street market. Let's see what that does, and we'll go to generate. So you can put up to 100 letters in there to give your prompt. So it sends the information away to Adobe via your internet connection. They do the processing on their server, and then they send it back and put it back into your image. Let's see what they come up with. Well, that's not too bad, a bit bright, but we can deal with that. That's option 1. Oh, now that's good, isn't it? Option 2, and I tell you what, that's pretty good. I'm going to go with that one. So happy with that. So you can see that it's produced another layer over here. I'm just going to bring it into the layer. So I'm just going to go down to find merge visible and just bring the two together. So I like that. So let's zoom out a little bit. I want to probably take away these pigeon deflectors that are on the top. So let's go to the remove tool and let's just go across there with the remove tool, and hopefully the remove tool will know that we don't want those little spikes above the sign there, and it will compute a replacement in the background. So I hit the check mark. There we go, that works fine. Okay, we're going to zoom out. So we need to remove this other sign on the wall here. So I'm just going to select the remove tool, little brush, and we'll just go around the outside of there, including the shadow. And remember, if you just do a straight round circumference, it will automatically fill in when you let go. And we'll just do the check mark there. And there we go, we've got the wall sorted out. So we've got a witch up there, which works really, really well. There's an alarm box, missed it when I was discussing about it earlier. So let's just take that out. There we go. Hit the check mark. Okay. So, anything else we need to remove here? I think so. I think it looks pretty good. I think we can put this back into Lightroom and do the final adjustments in there. I'm pretty happy with all of this. Yep, I'm going to say we're done. So make sure it's one layer, which it is, and then go to File, Close, because we don't want it in Photoshop anymore. Save, and that will put it back into Lightroom. So there we are, we're back into Lightroom. Got those corrections made, got that sign changed, which looks really good actually. So let's sort this image out. What can we do to make it really sort of pop and stand out? Well, there's a number of things. It's all about lighting, remember. So we can reduce the lighting and then relight the area in a selective way. That always works quite well. But before we do that, I'm going to go to the crop tool here, and we're going to crop this over. Now I'm going to try to keep the ratio the same. So I'm going to bring this up from the bottom and bring this down from the top just to get inside there. But you note it's not perfectly straight, the edge of that window, as is this, because of the perspective. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the transform, and then we're going to look if we can straighten this. So let's try auto first. So that's done pretty good job there, and that's not bad there. So I'm happy with that. I don't need to use guided. Let's go back to the crop process, bring that up a little bit, bring this down. Now that fits perfectly along the edge of that window there. And we've got a bit of brickwork coming through here. That sign is still within the shot there, so I'm happy with that. This side, this Edinburgh wall edge of this sign is a little bit distracting, so let's try and come over a little bit more, and maybe I can just make it a little bit bigger on this side, and it's can't come down too much because I see that the top of that sign there. So let's just keep coming up here a little bit. Go to the edge of that window, and we can always remove that a little bit there. So I'm happy with that. So hit return and we get the crop. So we just need to remove that little bit of the sign there. So let's just go into the remove tool here in Lightroom. Let's select the remove function here, which is the band-aid. We can also go over and select this mode if we want to. I'm just trying to think which would be the best, heal or remove. Let's go to remove. So we're in remove, detect the object, use generative AI if we need it. So, but I don't think we do, but I'm just going to make that brush smaller there. There we go. Just get that a little bit smaller, and we'll just take out that little bit there. It's analyzing. It's just going to process that. Hopefully it'll sort that out for us. Remove, click remove. It's going to use AI to do it. There we go. That worked out well. That's good. So happy with that. So let's process the image now. So I'm just going to go back to the basic settings, and we're just going to try and balance this off, because now we've come back from Photoshop, we're in a TIFF file, so everything is effectively reset. So what we can do is we can look at the highlights, we can bring them down a little bit more so we can see that lantern up there is working well. We can open up the shadows a little bit more as well. That looks quite nice. And I'm just going to remove some of the temp, just a little bit more to the blue, because the lights here have created quite a sort of brown stroke orange hue. So just gone -15 on the temp, and that just brings some of the color back in here, which looks very nice. Now, this area up here is very bright. You can see this. It's obviously lit from the light that's behind me, and you can see the light on the wall the other side here. And I'd like to darken this down, but I do like that it's bright on the front of that building. So I think what we should do is take a mask and let's deal with this bright area here first. So I'm going to go into masks. I'm going to select object, okay? And then I'm going to pick up a selection along the edge of that line there, down to the bottom. And then we're just going to go along the top of that wall there and just fill that bit in. Now, it's probably unlikely to get all of it when I let go. There you go, it's done that bit there. So we go to add, we go to select object. We can take a slightly smaller brush this time. And what we can do is we can go back up that edge there, the bit that's not collected. There we go. And we can pick that bit up as well. So let's pick that up. Still a few bits missing there. Well, let's just add a brush. Go to brush. And we'll take a slightly smaller brush, make sure the flow is very, very high. We don't need any feather because we're just gonna come in here and just paint those bits in. There we go. Just gonna take that a little bit along that edge there as well. Right, but what I do want to do, and I think let's just take the rest of that along here. What I do want to do is make sure we don't have a sharp edge. So to do that, at the top where the mask is that we've just added all these objects and brushes to, go to the three dots, intersect the mask with, and then what we're going to pick is a linear gradient. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a linear gradient from the top down to that edge. See? So we'll get the effect 100% at the top here. In fact, we could probably even bring that down a bit further. So we've got 100% at the top there. And then we've got nothing at the bottom. So now if we reduce the exposure, you see that we'll bring that down at the top. That works really well. It's not too dark here. In fact, we could probably even pull this a bit further. And that's darkened that area down much better. Perhaps go even just a little bit further. About there, because we're going to darken the whole scene. That's great. I'm going to come out of the mask for the second. And then what we're going to do is just darken the whole scene down just a little bit. Let's bring it down to -0.5. Now you might say, why are you doing that? Well, what I want to do is relight parts of the image, which I think bring more sort of attention to the subject, more contrast, more drama, if you like. So now we've dropped that down. Let's have a look at this shop window. So the first thing I could do, go back into masks, create a new mask, take a radial gradient, right? And then I'm going to take quite a large radial gradient here. I'm going to pop the center where these lights are. So that's just a feather that we use in the middle there. That doesn't matter too much. But what we'll do is we'll make that a bit narrow. So just covering that area there. We can always remove a little bit off the edges if we need to, and along the top and the bottom. Just going to bring it up a little bit. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to brighten that window up. So I'm going to brighten that window up. There we go. Using that radial gradient. Let's add a bit more yellow into that. Maybe a little bit of magenta just to pop the gold, make it look like it's gold. That works really well. And I'm definitely going to add in a little bit of clarity into this shot. That looks great. A bit bright at the top. So go to subtract whilst you're in this mask. Take your brush. What I'm going to do with this brush is just make the feather 100%, go with about 40% flow, take a slightly bigger brush, and I'm just going to start brushing that away until I'm happy that that looks where I want it to be. There is quite a bit down here as well, but I'm not going to remove that. I'm showing you that. I'm not actually going to remove it because it looks like the light's coming across from the other side, and that works well. So this side, we want to do the same. So let's go into that radial that we had, click on it, right click, and then duplicate the mask, right? And then click on it again and move it over onto this window. So just going to make that a little bit narrower. In fact, I'll probably put that towards the top where that light is there. And what I will do is just reduce the highlights on that. We've got the clarity. I think actually on this one as well, I think I'll do the same thing. We'll just bring down the highlights slightly. That looks pretty good. This one's a little bit too bright, so I'm just going to drop the exposure slightly. There we go. Now, if you want to make these lights pop a little bit more, what you can do is create another mask. Just take a brush. We've got high feather, lowish flow, and then I'm just going to make the brush quite small. And then what we can do is we can just brush along where these lights are, right? Just make that a little bit bigger. Brush just one stroke, bring that through there. And I'm going to do the same over here. Just pick up those lights, just running the brush around. That works very nicely. Now, what we do is we can go to the exposure and we can make them a bit brighter. We can take the highlight slider and make them a little bit brighter as well. And we can also add a bit more clarity to them to really make them pop, and maybe just a little bit of texture as well. So it really makes the lamps stand out. I think that looks really nice. Now, the sign here, I want to brighten this sign a little bit. So let's create another mask. Let's go to radial gradient. Let's take a radial gradient, roughly around about the right size, and put it in the center. Now what you'll notice is that the sign isn't perfectly round. So what we can do is the Alt or Option key, and then we can move one side at a time. So hold down the Option or Alt key, move that into the edge there, you can see, and then bring that down from the top. So I'm just moving one side at a time rather than moving the whole radial, and that way we can get it to fit almost perfectly. They might say, well, why do that? But what we want to do is just pick up that sign. So if I go to the little red dot that's on there, if I zoom in a little bit, you'll see, let's just move that over. The little red dot is the feather. So if we bring the feather out, so it just covers the sign itself, just move that so we're perfectly in the right place, roughly in the right place. Now, if we go to the exposure slider, we can make the sign brighter. There we go, almost as though it's illuminated. Add a little bit of contrast, but what really works here is clarity. So pop in some clarity, and then let's just zoom back on that. Let's come out the mask there a sec, just to zoom back. Illuminated, that sign looks really, really good. Let's do the same with the sign up here for the same shop. So we'll go back into the mask. We'll click on that. We'll right click and we'll duplicate it. Duplicate the mask, not the radial, because we want to be able to adjust it separately. And then we're going to go up there. Now this time we can rotate it slightly just to make it fit at the angle that we've got there. And then we'll make the whole thing slightly smaller. And we'll do the same thing again here. So I'm just going to brighten the exposure a little bit more. Maybe add a bit of color to this. We'll go to the temp slider and we can add a little bit of color up there. We've already got the clarity up, but I can add a little bit more, and that works really well, lighting that sign up there. Okay, so let's look at the other side. I think the witch sign needs to be illuminated, and maybe the shop window should be illuminated. Let's just have a look. I'm just looking closely at that just to see if that looks okay, which it does. So let's go over here. It's beautiful, the Shambles at Christmas time. Really, really very nice indeed. So what are we going to do now? So should we light that window? I don't know. Definitely light this lantern here. I need to remove that alarm box that's on the wall. So go into remove, go into the remove function here. Just draw around that box there. There we go. It will pick that up, identify it. So it's analysed it, and we'll just remove it. So that will be gone. There we go. So we can light that up. I think we should light the sign of the witch up that we created. I think that works really well, that sign. So let's do the same. We'll go back into mask. We'll take another mask. This time we're going to do a square mask. Okay, so how do you do a square mask? Well, let me show you. Either we can just take the object selection. So I'm going to select object, and we will come in here and we will just select it with the object, like so. And then, so it would select it for us. And then what we could do is we could intersect using the three dots, intersect it with a radial gradient. So we're going to take a radial gradient now. There we go, pop that in the middle, and we'll just feather that back. So what we're doing is effectively getting it brighter in the middle, not so bright along the edges, and make it a little bit smaller. There we go. So now if we increase the exposure here, we'll get the center of the sign lighting up rather than the whole sign lighting up, which actually looks quite good. Add a little bit of contrast. Let's put some color in there, magenta as well, just to make it golden and make it pop. That works very well. So let's just come away from that for a minute and see. A little bit bright. So let's go back into that mask there, and let's just bring that down slightly, and let's just reduce the exposure just a little bit. There we go. Let's come out of that, and let's just see. That works. That works. Okay, let's light this light up. So into masks, create a new mask, radial gradient. So we're going to take a little radial gradient there. We're just going to pop that on the lamp itself. Bring up the exposure to maximum. Let's zoom in a bit closer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it, duplicate the mask, and we're going to create a second mask, and this time it's going to be a little bit smaller, as though there's actually a lantern in there. Let's add some Let's add some color into that, some temp. Let's go back to the previous mask there and just add a bit of color into it as well. There we go. That looks all right. So let's zoom back. Let's have a look at the lamp. Looks good. Need some light on the wall. So let's go into the radial gradient again, create a new mask, radial gradient, and then we'll take a radial gradient, pop it on the wall where that meets the wall. So you've got to come back to about there. So what we're going to do is just bring that in there, rotate it so it's at a slight angle, and then we're just going to brighten that scene up a little bit on the wall. There you go. Just lighten the wall up just a little bit. Color seems about right. I don't want to put too much temp in there. That's okay. Maybe a little bit of light on the ground underneath it. So we'll create another mask, another radial, and we'll just take quite a large radial there. Let's get rid of the center feather completely, and then we'll just bring that up there, just gently. Now, I do see people go over the top a little bit when they light the ground. They end up with like this. Unless there's a floodlight or a spotlight that's lighting down, you really don't want to do that. You want to be nice and gentle. There we go. That looks about right. So happy with that. So zooming back, let's have a look at the whole scene. So these areas need to be lit up a little bit. I want to make this a little bit brighter because you've got this light coming down here. So create another radial gradient. We'll pop it on the ground here, right where that is, and this is important. We turn it to face the light. Do you see that? Turn it to face the light. Now when we brighten up on the path there, and perhaps we can add a little bit of color in there as well. There we go. Maybe a little bit of magenta. That picks that reflection up off that rainy ground very well. I think we need to do something here because we're getting a reflection from that light off this door. So let's go back, take another radial gradient, just a small one here, and we'll pop that down there. And let's just bring that up a little bit brighter as well. Maybe a little bit of color in there just to do that. These buildings, we need to light this up. And I think we could do that with a brush, or we could do that with another radial, I think. Let's take a radial in there. Let's turn it slightly. Come along there. Make it a little bit shorter. There we go. And we will just brighten that up just a little bit, as though that light was lighting it up on the other side. That works very well indeed. So let's come out of masks. So the overall scene's looking pretty good. I want to just sort of bring this area a little bit brighter around here. I think the best way to do that is take another mask with a brush. We will take the flow at 40 and the feather at 100 is great, because what we can do is just add in some exposure there and then add in some clarity. And then we can just lift these areas up slightly. You can see around there. Let's just brighten up this windowsill here a little bit along the edge there. That bit of wood up there looks really nice, so we just light that up as well. We're just adding that little bit of extra light into the scene. Just brighten those areas up ever so slightly, so it looks like there's light coming in. We'll probably put a post-crop vignette in here, so this won't matter too much around here. Just going to light the front of that building up a little bit, and those windows up there just a little bit. I think that looks really good. Normally I'd light some of these windows, but to be honest, I'm not really going to do that today. I think we've got enough information here, enough detail going on. So let me do the post-crop vignette. So let's just come out of the mask, go down to the bottom here, go to effects. Let's move the post-crop vignette over to -30. Remember to take the feather slider and slide that to 100. That works well. And then we'll just do the final corrections on the scene itself. So the whole scene needs to be a little bit brighter. There we go. Let's bring down those highlights just a little bit more. That looks nice. This window looks wonderful. I'm going to add a little bit of vibrance in, but I'm going to reduce the saturation just slightly so you get that sort of old world look. Yeah, and I think we're about there. The only thing that troubles me is this cable that's holding the Christmas lights up here. It's a bit bright, so let's have a look at that. Let's see if we can sort that out. So we're just going to go in closer and just have a look. So we've got the whole thing. So what we could do is go into mask, go to create mask, go to select object. Okay. And what we could do is where it's very bright here, we could just come out along here, asking it to select the wire. Just make sure we get all of it. That's it. So I'm just selecting the whole wire here. That's it. And it selected it. So let's see if we can darken that down so it's not so bright up there. Create a line. We just got to find that balance point. We'll bring the highlights down. I think that works well, actually. Let's just zoom back. Yeah, so it's not dominating the scene anymore up here. It looks fine. So yeah, let's just check our blacks and our whites. So hold down the Alt or Option key. Let's have a look at that. So the whites can come back a little way. And the blacks, we can bring the blacks in just a little bit. Not too much, just showing a little bit of black. I'm going to brighten the whole scene just a little bit more. That's great. And I'm going to say we are done. So I hope you enjoyed that. A little bit of Christmas at York in the Shambles. It's a beautiful place to visit at Christmas time. The Christmas market there is fantastic. But if you want to see the Shambles like this, you need to get up early in the morning before everybody else shows up. But if you do have the time to go to York, pop in, go to the Christmas market, but also go into the Shambles. Get there early in the morning when it opens, about 9 o'clock. And then you can go in all the shops along here, and they're fantastic. If you look back to my past videos, you'll find 2 or 3 other videos about the Shambles, which I did a year or 2 back. A wonderful place. Enjoyed myself there a great deal. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, click like. If you've got any comments or questions, feel free to put them down below. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and join me here on YouTube. I'm still having a great time. I hope you are too. But for now, I'm going to say Merry Christmas and goodbye.